Sire of Seven Deaths is going to kick us off here. Card 0001 from the set, and it is quite a mythic. You got to, Jake, if you're editing this one, you got to throw up the showcase version at some point, because the way the text got templated in the showcase version being center aligned just looks so sick to me. Sire of Seven Deaths is a 7/7 for 7. It's an Eldrazi with First Strike, Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Lifelink, Ward, which is pay 7 life. Soul Flare has entered the chat.
This is going to be the limited bomb all-star of the set. Ridiculous. Because it's a generic 7 that you can just jam into any deck you're playing in limited. Obviously, Eldrazi decks want it. I think it's just a fun, generically good card. Like, part of me is like, yeah, it kind of works in Imscure because I just play a pile of mana rocks and can crap it out, and it's just a big threat that people have to answer that's going to gain me back life and just be really pesky. And if someone wants to target it, they have to hurt themselves badly in order to do it. This thing is freaking awesome. Big thank you to all of our channel patrons that powered the channel through Patreon. Without your patronage, we would just be peons sipping on porridge. Pow, pea sounds.
You know it's 2024 Magic the Gathering when even the core sets are pushed as all heck. As a core set enjoyer, I've got to say, exploring Foundations has been really fun because it's like a core set, except they were like, every card in 2024 has to be sick.
Yeah, dude, there's some cats. We love cats.
We love cats.
Good new cat synergy. There's a giant new Eldrazi with really cool ability templating. There's a dragon that we're going to talk about, and then I'm sure by the end you're going to let us know, hey, you missed this card, so leave it in the comments. Let's talk about our favorite cards for Commander from Magic the Gathering's Foundations.
Foundations! All right, sponsors.
Jake and Joel Are Magic is brought to you by Card Conduit. That is one of the best spots to sell your Magic the Gathering singles. Take your unused stacks of cards that are 50 cents or more, send them over to be buy listed with Card Conduit, and when you get your cash from them, because you are just so absolutely ingrained and cursed and you can't stop spending your money on this game, take it over to TCG Player. And when you get to TCG Player, use our affiliate link. You can find all of our links in the description of the video. Take your cash there, use our link. It costs you nothing extra. It helps out the channel, and you are able to search a competitive list of buyers that are all competing by lowering their prices to get you to buy their cards. Also, Dragon Shield for protecting your beloved cards.
Jake and Joel Are Magic is also brought to you by Drip Shop, MTG Stocks, and Moxfield.
Yeah, then we have Loot, our second card here that features a legendary creature, Loot, Beast Noble, 1 green, 2 other for 1/4. You may play an additional land on each of your turns, and then it has a big ability here, 2 green and 4 other. Tap, look at the top 6. You may reveal a creature card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control. Just put it onto the battlefield. Wow. And it doesn't say do that only as a sorcery.
Instant speeding the creature out is just one extra piece of, additional land. This is redundancy in the decks that need the multiple landfalls, and you're going to get to that 6 so fast. Essentially, I like to play creatures like this or permanents like this where we get it onto the field, and now we're not committing resources from our hand anymore. We're going to do everything we can. We draw our card, and then we're going to stay open and ready to roll with Loot and just put another creature onto the battlefield for free. And it's like, look, Loot's going to just spit stuff out until you answer it, and I'm going to accumulate resources the whole time.
It's so good in the 99. I don't like monocolor. I don't think it would do that great as mono green, but I love it in the 99.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just redundancy on cards like that. Mossborn Hydra is on this list because I've been playing a lot of Bumbleflower. I built Bumbleflower as a draw extra cards and +1/+1 counters Bant approach to that sort of deck. And Mossborn Hydra at 1 green, 2 other for a 0/0 comes with Trample, which is the part I like the best here, really. Creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it, and landfall, you get to double the number of +1/+1 counters on this creature. Bumbleflower is putting 2 counters on my creatures per turn if the deck is operating at minimum. And so having Mossborn Hydra be able to be loaded up with some extra counters, then drop that land, we double easily from 3 or 4 to 6 or 8, and we've got a pretty nasty trampling threat before we've even passed the turn. and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, and that's just one deck's application for it. You know, there's going to be other counter decks that are going to do degenerate things with this as well. I mean, yeah, landfall, return lands.
Right.
It's it's nutty. Imagine it with Scape Shift. Right. I mean, let's go.
God, yes.
Right. Yeah. Preposterous proportions. We've got some giant squirrels here knocking over a city. I mean, what's not to like? One of them is it looks like kind of like a gray squirrel over there. Kind of cool. Creatures you control get +10/+10 and gain vigilance until end of turn. No trample on here, so you'll have to figure that element of this out, but this is a massive buff for the team. I won't call it an overrun effect because we don't have the overrun.
It's not the trample, right? It's so funny. I did the same thing when I was pulling this card. I was like, I want to call it a crazy overrun, but it doesn't have trample, but it does everything else. And
like, just like imagine it in Hawkball or like even any kind of flyover kind of situation. Like,
vigilance is such an underrated keyword in Commander in the first place. And then on top of it, it's just a fun, silly card. The deck that's running this is also running like Garrick's Uprising. I'm pretty sure that's the card draw enchantment that gives everything trample by default as well. And honestly, now I have a great card to send to people when they're like, wow, SpongeBob layer, MTG's gotten too silly. I'm just going to send them this and not have any other comments on the entire subject. But Quilled Great Worm is another creature I'm very interested in because of +1/+1 counters. 6 mana for a 7/7 with trample. So the boomer MTG player in me is already going, yeah, baby. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage during your turn, put that many +1/+1 counters on it. And then the Quilled Great Worm comes back from the graveyard for just 6 mana and removing 6 counters from among creatures you control, which, if you've set this up well, you're playing this into a board that can already swing and hopefully through the combat damage produce at least 6 counters on your board. And then you're ready. You're like, okay, kill my Great Worm. That's fine.
This is quite the card. I'm a big fan for all of the reasons you've just outlined.
I've just been focused so much recently on +1 counter decks that the Foundations definitely gave that archetype some love.
This new Niv Mizzet is pretty cool as well. For a red, a blue, and 4 other, we're getting a 5/5 flyer, no maximum hand size as per usual. Whenever a source you control deals non-combat damage to an opponent, you draw that many cards. So I'm thinking about stuff like Sulfuric Vortex, Roiling Vortex, these little cards that are just pinging for non-combat damage.
Dude, just 1 damage to each opponent at their upkeep. You're like, oopsie, card draw.
It's hard for me because I don't typically like building Izzet. I don't know what it is about this color combo, but it doesn't really call to me despite really loving red. Something about the blue, like I can't get there. I would rather it just be red black.
I like that one a lot. I think that's really fun. That many is just so crazy. Zimone Paradox Sculptor. Don't look now, but I've put another +1 counter card on the list. 1 blue, 1 green, 2 other for a 1/4 human wizard version of Zimone. At the beginning of combat on your turn, so you can play this in main phase 1 and benefit, put a +1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. What? We're going to put 2 power on the battlefield for free every combat? Okay. And then for a green and a blue, you can double the number of each kind of counter on up to 2 target creatures and or artifacts you control. Lots of fun application with that as well. Just another silly +1 counter card within the Bant color identity that I was like, oh baby, I got to put this one in the Bumbleflower. Yeah, New Zimone is good. Only downside here is you can't double the counters on anything, but I honestly would prefer them to design with a little more restriction. You know, this doesn't automatically become like a Simic Planeswalker's commander just because, right? Banner of Kinship is a 5 mana artifact. As it enters, you choose a creature type. This artifact enters with a fellowship counter on it for each creature you control of the chosen type. So on 5 mana, you are assuming you've already got a board developed, which is when you want to play this. It does suck to draw this into an empty board after a board wipe or something, but entering with those fellowship counters on it gives each creature you control of the chosen type +1/+1 for each fellowship counter. I view this as a win con. This is a 5 mana, oops, I just won, because I've got 10 spirits in the air, 10 1/1 spirits. And, you know, think about me having 10 1/1 spirits. Around the battlefield once, everybody's like, that's probably going to be a problem. That's a big threat over there, but we can answer it next turn. And then I drop Banner of Kinship. All of them get +10/+10 swing. And if the board is wiped after that point, you still get the boon. So every time I play a spirit, it's a 10/10 after that.
Correct.
That's the part I like the
most.
most.
That's what really is the best part of the card is like, yes, you play it into an empty board. That's the worst case scenario.
Right.
So you wouldn't even play it. You would just hold it in your hand.
Right.
In a situation where you can just play this, give the whole team a massive, massive buff. And then, if the board gets wiped, like you said just now, any creature that you play of that type until this is answered has a huge buff that's just going to allow them to be a big threat for a low cost. I would love to play this. Like I already mentioned Hawkball, but I've played against that deck a few times recently, and it is like a 10 power precon. This card would be fantastic in there.
You know what? I think of this as a funny backdoor win con in decks you wouldn't even think of as a Kindred deck. Like the Tevish Zat Planeswalker, you can pull it up. It makes Thralls as an ability, and you can get a lot of Thralls accumulated over the course of that game. Kind of a silly backdoor win con to be like a Banner of Kinship, naming Thralls. Swing 3 Thralls at you, they're all 12/12. Swing 3 Thralls at you, they're all 12/12. Right? Like, just get silly. I don't know. I think
it's very fun.
I really like it. And by the way, shout out to the Bloomborough art. I'm loving in Foundations the art from every plane. It's giving me a better feeling than March of the Machine did, which was sort of this like multiversal tour, multiversal war. I like that this is more like a multiversal tour and we're just on a bunch of different planes. I love that.
Yeah, I like that as well. Leyline Axe is really cool. We have an equipment now that has worked like Leylines have in the past. If this card is in your opening hand, you begin with it on the battlefield, and it's a pretty good effect here. We have +1/+1 and double strike. Now the equip is a little bit steep there on 3, and if you have to play this for 4, it's a 7 mana investment just to get it on a creature. But I do think it's going to be an equipment that people like and will want to tinker with.
Yeah, I think it's a fun one. I don't think this one is game breaking at all. Double strike and trample is fantastic, and I think that if you have some sort of equipment build where you need a lot of redundancy on that, you're going past, Fire Shrieker, Embercleave, the standard moves for double strike or trample, things like that. This might be an option. 4 steep, but if you're in an equipment deck, you're equipping shit for free mostly anyway.
Right.
And then the games that you do have it in your opening hand, it's a silly fun, I'm going to be able to equip on like turn 3. I'm going to be able to equip my 2-drop with a 1/1 double striking trampling axe. I don't know. Seems fun.
Right.
I'm really loving the art. I fell into the art while you were describing the game pattern, and I was just like, is this charcoal or color pencil? Or it's a different medium than I'm used to seeing in art, in MTG art, so it caught my eye. I got to look up this piece and see exactly what it is. Looks really cool. How about a card that says you can't lose the game and your opponents can't win the game? I love that they've developed the Foundation set as like this great onboarding product for people, and they've put cards in there that say you can't lose and opponents can't win. Just having win the game or lose the game as a phrase on a card is always so fun. I don't care if it sucks. It's just so fun. I know that this is going to catch a lot of new players' eyes. 3 white, 4, 6/6 flash. Wow.
Yeah.
Love the F word on here. And then flying, because if that thing didn't fly, we would all write a strongly worded letter to our congressman.
Be like, what is the point of
I don't understand why we're doing this anymore. But this card in the set is fantastic. I love it. So fun.
Yep. Hard agree.
Angels getting lots of love, as are cats, Jake, your favorite creature type, IRL.
That's right. I do love my cats. So we have Arabo here, the first Fang cat avatar. It's another anthem for cats. That's typically a good way to go with cats. We have a lot of cats in MTG's history that are already anthems, but here's another one. And when it or another non-token cat you control enters, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. So it goes wide. A good generic cat. I'm not going to say this needs to go in every deck, but if you are playing cats, you probably want this.
Yeah, I really love that they've focused on creature types, again, in the set that are really going to be attractive to players. new players and old. Arbo looks like a bad guy in this. I can't get over how much my Disney kid training has me thinking that Arbo's got to be stopped. This you can't keep running the secluded steps like this. That's not going to work, Arbo. You're a bad guy. Anyway.
You're a bad guy.
It's another Angels card with Valkyrie's Call, 2 white, 3 other enchantment. Whenever a non-token, non-angel creature you control dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. It has flying and is an angel in addition to its other types. So
it doesn't go away after that. It just is like,
there.
Right.
Hello.
It's just great.
And you know what you don't see on here? Finality counter. If it would go to the graveyard, it gets exiled. That thing just is there now. Deal with it. Thorn in your side. So I call this an angel card. Don't put this in your angel decks, please. Don't make that mistake of just scryfalling the keyword angel and throwing them in there because it says angel on it. You don't want this in a deck probably that runs another single angel at all. It's going to be like in your flying deck or in your enchantments deck. That's a really good place for it. Your enchantments deck, that'd be a great home for it. Or just your like black-white. I could see like a black-white reanimator, aristocrats kind of thing. Those all just returning when they get sacrificed. Really crazy. Fun mythic enchantment.
I cannot believe that this is 5 cost. I almost feel like an effect like this, like we're getting into like 7 cost territory, because I think of stuff like Return from the Grave and like those big enchantments from the past that have similar effects, like even Sepulchral Primordial, right?
Yeah.
It's like a body that brings stuff back. This for me is just so much value for 5 mana. And I think this is probably going to be one of the stronger cards from the set just because of how much redundancy it offers. So it's like it doesn't even say put a counter on it, and like when it dies,
they've made finality counter. They've got this beautiful, just like clean solution to reanimator loops being a problem, and they were just like, nah, we're good on this one.
Yeah, you return it to the battlefield. It doesn't even make a copy of it. It doesn't even say make a token that's a copy of it.
Yeah,
right?
dude.
If that thing dies again, I'm pretty sure it just comes back as an angel again.
As you were talking, I was like, no, dude, we're getting this card wrong. This will be the one in the video where everybody's like, you missed the word exile, and it's. But I'm not seeing a downside. I'm not finding the downside. I think this just says your creatures come back.
Return it with like 1/1. Here's the downside.
Once per turn, you can board wipe and all of them come back. There's not even a once per turn on this. Oh my god.
Right, like your Dahada deck, right? Is there an issue with you running this in Dahada?
It's not legendary. I have to take a legendary thing out. Like that's the only concern for that deck. But yeah, this is really strong. This will be the clip of them in 2 years when they're like, these guys just overhype the hell out of any old mythic that comes along. Us freaking out over Valkyrie's Called. We'll be able to catch some criticism on that.
It always comes with people that are, coming in from a perspective of like the wrong power level, or they're just like they have the wrong power level in their head. But I do think for 5 mana it's really good.
We like fun cards.
Archmage of Runes. Yeah, 2 blue, 3 other for a 3/6. Instant and sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast. And whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, draw a card. So for 5 mana, we just have a really good engine here that's going to mitigate our spell costs, and then we're also going to draw. It's a draw engine, gives me like an Archmage of Emeritus kind of
exactly.
vibe,
Archmage Emeritus is the comp here because Archmage is a 4 mana that says whenever you cast, you get to draw a card. Now, that card is widely played. This is 1 more mana and provides an instant and sorcery spell medallion for you as well. Additionally, it's a 3/6, that's a hell of a butt on a giant wizard. So this one's on the list because Archmage Emeritus is so popular. High Fate Trickster's got some crazy art here by Justina Dura. Lots of movement in this 1 blue, 3 other 4/2 fairy wizards art piece. It's got flash, it's got flying, and it gives other spells flash. There's a lot of F words on this.
Also a fairy, which makes it an extremely relevant creature type as well.
And a wizard.
So, right, fairy wizard. That is going to be one of the big reasons that a lot of people like this card. When you have a flyer that comes in as a 4/2, we don't this is about commander, but from a limited aspect, 4/2 flyer for flash at a rate of 4 is freaking insane. That gives all the rest of your shit flash. But for commander, yeah, it's very good. It's just like, okay, on your EOT, I flash in high fade trickster. I'll go to my untap, upkeep, draw. I pass. Obviously, I don't have anything to do. It's a really cool card that's going to be kind of pesky, and I think it's kind of a sleeper as well. You know, you might kind of glance over this one and be like, oh, I don't know if there's really enough going on that body, but cast stuff as though it had flash. We've always seen that be very good.
Everything having flash gets insane. Kiora the Rising Tide is going to help fill up your graveyard at a really good rate. Draw 2, discard 2 is better than you're giving it credit for. 1 blue, 2 other for a 3/2 Merfolk Noble. When it enters, you're drawing 2, you're discarding 2. And then whenever Kiora attacks, if you've got thresholds, 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you get to create an 8/8. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting that they included Threshold in this, because when we were all dabbling in Commander in the beginning, we were finding all your old Threshold cards going, oh my God, that's so broken in Commander.
From Odyssey. It was an Odyssey.
Yeah.
Odyssey mechanic.
Yeah. And so what did they do? They said, okay, yeah, we'll just reprint new Threshold cards. We're not going to change anything about Threshold. It's already going to be easy to get those 7 cards in there. Then just protect this, you know, put unblockable on it. That way, whenever it swings, you're getting 8/8 value out of it.
Yeah.
This is so crazy. And you could get this online so early, fill up the yard in some capacity, you know, go like Buried Alive and just, dredge effects, any of that kind of thing.
Self-mill,
fill up the yard. Yeah, you could go like Sultai or, you know, even Dimir, and I think you can really go hard with this card.
Absolutely. I mean, 11 power is nothing to shake a stick at. I really want to see Scion of the Deep since it's legendary. I'm assuming that there's a really sick token that comes along with this, so gotta see that. If it's there, we'll throw it up in the video. 11 power on the attack from a Merfolk. Pretty sweet. Lunar Insight is one I need everybody's opinions on. I'm thinking that this is good. 3 mana, sorcery speed, but draw a card for each different mana value among non-land permanents you control. So I'm looking at this as, I feel like this is minimum going to be pay 3, draw 3, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
That is the floor of this card in most situations. True floor of this card is divination, I think, which is crazy. It's a divination with big upside. I mean, pay 3, draw 5, potentially, easily achievable, 0 mana. A treasure counts, by the way. Think about tokens, please. It says non-land, so you can't count your lands. Yeah. But food, clue, treasure, all that is 0, and you're already drawing 1. We'll go from there. Did you get your soul ring? Do you have the 1 mana equipment online, right? I feel like the upside here is worth exploring, and I feel like typically this is going to be 3 mana, draw 4 in a lot of situations.
I think so as well. I think we have a very unique, rare card here that is going to allow us, even though sorcery speed it's slow, I think it's going to be pretty impactful at 3 mana.
Yeah, I really like Lunar Insight. It's one I want to explore for sure. Oh my God, the F word.
Yeah, Sphinx of Forgotten Lore, 2 blue, 2 other for a 3/3 flyer with flash. I already like it. Whenever it attacks, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. Flashback cost is equal to that card's mana cost. This is, spoiler alert, one of the most expensive cards so far from the set, and I'm not surprised that it is. You just have, on the attack, you're getting a flashback.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even need to get through. So it's like swing.
It's a mythic too.
Blocks, get back my removal spell.
Yeah.
Kill your potential blocker before damage if they do block. There's just so much that's going on with this card. Cards like this that offer second use to cards are so valuable. It's like a Snapcaster Mage in the air, a repeatable Snapcaster Mage in the air. Big fan.
Yeah, depending on the meta, this seems like the kind of card that will be that, you know, standard player 2 of, 3 of in a deck. It's also, I mean, the floor of this card is like mid plus in a commander deck. You know, Got to get through with the 3/3. Flying is enough avoidance to probably pull that off consistently. And then you're flashing back whatever instants and sorceries that you've been able to cast that time. Can be mana intensive. You know, it's not like an auto include in blue, but the floor of mid plus, and I mean, typically I think, you know, mid to late game, this is going to be an A of a card because it's on the attack, so you can remove things that are in the air if need be. Yeah, Sphinx of Forgotten Lore, Flying Snapcaster Mage, kind of an interesting thing there. This is one of my favorite cards from the set, if not my favorite new card from the set. Blasphemous Edict here. 2 black, 3 other, but you're never going to pay that much because it says you may pay 1 black rather than pay this spell's mana cost if there are 13 or more creatures on the battlefield. 3 times 4 is 12. So think about that. How many times have you had 3 creatures and everybody else has had at least 3 creatures and then 1 more hits the battlefield? Each player sacrifices 13 creatures of their choice. Holy moly.
If that's not a board wipe, I don't know what is going to get the job done.
1 mana board wipe. This is going to so consistently be a 1 mana board wipe. I think that this is going to live right alongside Blasphemous Act as the premier board wipe, must be included in these colors.
Yeah, I think so as well. And the floor of it being, you know, a 5 mana board wipe is fine. You know, if you just need to cast it without the reduced cost,
right?
I'm fine with that. Yeah, and it's sacrificed, so it gets around all the pesky stuff like indestructible.
That's why it's
this
so
is
sick.
A backbreaker for some people. This card is just really cool. It is a really nice tie-in with Blasphemous Act as well. Yeah, it's definitely neat.
Doesn't matter how big the creatures are. I'll tell you, in like creature token decks, Anthem style decks,
get outside of they get outside of Blasphemous.
Right,
100%.
Exactly. I mean, that's a goal. Is like, okay, I need to get my stuff to 14 tough. Like, that's a big milestone. Is okay, now my creatures are out of range of Blasphemous, and now we're rolling. This thing doesn't care. This thing eats them all. Everything's dying. Yeah. Indestructible be damned. This is the kind of card where we've got to explore, Jake and I, the whole collector booster box market for this set, because it's supposed to be such a long-term set. How long are those boxes actually going to be in print? Are the collector stuff going to be rare in 3 years, etc.? This is the kind of card where I'm marking this on my to grab list in this like showcase, whatever, best foiling treatment they've got in the set. I'm definitely grabbing a copy of that.
Bloodthirsty Conqueror, 2 black, 3 other for a 5/5 flying death touch. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. This is a very powerful effect on an enchantment, but now here it is on a creature. Love the art. I love the simplicity.
Yeah.
Let's just get down to business. Yeah, it's a perfect card as well. I wasn't talking about the simplicity of the art, but I do agree there. But just the card itself,
yes,
it's very basic. Get down to business. We're here to fly and kill stuff for 5, and we are going to gain life when you lose life.
I mean, talking about either Sanguine Bond or Exquisite Blood, whichever one this is, I can't think of it off the top of my head. If you ever were like, oh, what if that thing could fly and was 5/5 and had flying? And if it's a 6 toughness thing that it attacks or blocks, it's also going to kill that.
Well, wonder no more, because here it is.
It's crazy. Power creep in 2024 is just blowing me away at this point. You're showing me versions of just classic enchantments that come in as creatures and then die and come back as enchantments. The very next set, you're showing me that same kind of effect, but now it's on a 5/5 flyer with death touch. I want to see the reverse of this. I think that would be cool. Make it a flying life-linking vampire that says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses that much life. So it hits for 5, you gain 5, they lose another 5. That would be so broken. That wouldn't work. But
that's fun.
It would be sick to have the Sanguine Bond Exquisite Blood combo on creatures as well, with Bloodthirsty Conqueror and maybe Bloodthirsty Conqueror's wife. 9 lives Familiar. This is just an insane pushed version of like Endless Cockroaches, right? It just continuously comes back. 8
and it doesn't
or
say
9.
Tapped.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes back.
It doesn't say tapped.
Any of your decks that are like sacrifice a creature and do this. You have an enchantment that's sacrifice a creature, return a creature from your graveyard to your hand, something like that. 9 Lives Familiar goes in that deck. You're going to be able to use it over and over again. You're always going to love seeing this cat.
It's a blocker. It's got the utility you're talking about. Sack it. Do whatever you need to. For a 3 mana investment, you get a ton of bodies and power and utility out of this thing. And so had to include this sweet little black tabby cat on here.
Yeah, for those of you listening, 2 black, 1 other on the mana cost. Sorry, I forgot to read it. 1/1 cat. It ETBs with 8 revival counters on it if you cast it. And when this creature dies, if it had a revival counter on it, return to the battlefield with 1 fewer revival counter on it at the beginning of the next end step. So pretty sweet little sacrifice utility creature there in 9 Lives Familiar.
And then Zol Ashur Lich Lord, 1 black, 1 other for 2/2. Has ward, pay 2 life. You may cast target zombie creature card from your graveyard this turn. So zombies want it, but if you have a fun spell that makes everything in your hand and deck and graveyard all the same creature type, then you can do some more degenerate things with this. But I do think from the perspective of zombies, what's not to like? You're getting a zombie here that lets you easily resurrect stuff from the yard without having to put any mana into the tap ability. You still have to pay for whatever the costs are of the card.
I like when Magic gets back to zombies and dragons and angels, and that's what I like to see here. What about a 7 mana version of Chandra? It's the -4, dude. We'll get there. Red 5 for a 6 loyalty walker. Chandra's got a +2 that adds 3 red mana right back. So refunding 3 mana of the OG cost. Exile the top 3 cards of your library. Choose one. You can play that card this turn, not cast, notably, so you can grab a land with that. +1 on Chandra is create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it has haste. And at the beginning of your end step, sacrifice this token. Everybody who built a Tali at the end of last year from LCI needs to have their ears perking up on that one. And then -4, Chandra deals 8 damage, divided as you choose among any number of target creatures and or planeswalkers. So Chandra's going to come in and either just riggedy rock one thing or spread the love and answer a couple of utility things on the board. And it doesn't even kill Chandra. You could just do that. You just do that.
This one for me, it's weird to include a planeswalker on the list, but I could not leave this one off because of the way that it loots and gives you mana, allows you to ramp a little bit.
Right.
Then it also has this +1 that lets you create a token. Like, what the hell, dude? Anything with a good ETB effect or anything like that, something with a big attack effect.
Combat, attack, right, any of it.
You don't care because it's a token.
Yes.
Even if you need a token to sacrifice, that's good as well.
There you go.
And then it's funny, like the mode that I'm the least high on is the -4, even though it can come in and do 8. Yes. I just think this Planeswalker has a lot of really good stuff going on. And even in Commander, where Planeswalkers typically get swung down and are a little squishier, I think this card is very good.
It's nice to see a Chandra up at this mana value. You know, we've got Liliana Dreadhorde General that's just such a powerhouse at 6, I believe. And so having one up at 7 that I could see potentially finding homes in decks as we explored the Flame Shaper. That's nice to see. That's nice to see.
Electra Duplicate, 1 red, 2 other sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except it has haste. At the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this creature, and it also has flashback. So kind of like all the stuff we were just talking about, being able to copy something and then also have the flashback on there that allows you to do it again.
Yeah.
This can get kind of wild.
That's the piece I really like, is the flashback. There's cards like this. But any of the decks with a commander, we talked about the newest Atali, that's got an insane ETB on it. Even if it's a legend, just creating a token, getting that ETB again, this is where you want to live with this commander. Big,
you're getting like Heat Shimmer vibes from it, that kind of thing. Where,
exactly. Decks that want to run effects like that might need extra copies of their commander, that can benefit rather from extra token copies of their commander that they have to sack immediately, or maybe they've gotten rid of the legend rule, stuff like that is where this card is going to shine. And just having redundancy on this effect, attached to flashback is pretty sweet. Dragons, dude, I'm telling you, Magic is just in its purest form when it's angels and dragons, and it's just so fun. Cats. Ride of the Dragon Caller is a 6 mana mythic enchantment. Here's your big red mythic enchantment of the set at 6 mana. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a 5/5 dragon with flying. I mean, if this resolves and it gets back around to you on the table and it's still there, you just have to go, all right, y'all let me do this. Y'all let me do this.
Yeah.
You know everything's got haste, right? Anger's in my graveyard. Okay.
Ponder.
All right.
Opt.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You know.
Ponder any of the spells that are like 3 mana, draw 2 cards, untap 3 lands.
Yeah.
Create a
Any of the
5/5.
flashback stuff that we're talking about
Think
that's just
twice.
sitting in your graveyard.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I would just have this sitting. Again, I don't like playing Izzet.
Sure.
I don't know what it is about it, but I just can't stand it. We've almost got a song going on
we've
here.
got a musical that we've begun.
Yeah.
Don't make me play Izzet. This is the
about
poster on Broadway.
I just can't stand it. It looks like the Scream. Yeah, but if you do build this into, like a blue-red kind of Izzet build where you're getting extra utility out of the yard, even if you're in like Jeskai, I think this is one of those big, beefy kind of enchantments that's just like, oh, look, there's the big red 6-cost enchantment. Mm-hmm. However, I think the card is absolutely busted and very strong. The value you get from it is just nutty. As soon as you've made 2 dragons, you've paid for the card.
This is my wavelength of card too. I've been playing Stella Lee all year, since OTJ.
Jesus.
And I took out Arcane Bombardment from that deck because I didn't want to do that much thinking. But cast, spell, make dragon. My smooth as an egg brain can figure that one out every single time.
That one's not so bad. Just take a 5/5,
I don't have to
put
do
it on the
any
battlefield. Counting.
I'm just like, big dragon, attack. It's going to be so good. So this is 100% going in Joel's Stella Lee deck for morons who want to play Storm. This is perfect for me. Thank you so much, Wizards. I hate thinking, and I love winning.
And why not talk about a big giant dragon while we're at it? The Twin Flame Tyrant. This is another one of the big expensive cards in the set right now. Flying, and it has a big effect that would typically be on an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls. Oh, spoiler alert, it doubles it. Were you expecting a Furnace of Wrath effect? Yes,
Dictate of Erebos. I don't know why the last 2 sets, they were just like, we need cards that are old enchantments that everybody's seen a million times, but are on creatures now. Hooray! They can attack. That has been a big theme in design recently.
Yeah, it has. It has. And this feels like a foundation set.
It does.
And when I say that, I mean a core set.
Yes.
It feels like a core set.
But it feels
lot of
a
the
little
cards
more
that we're
pushed.
talking about, the simplicity. Yes, it's like instead of getting Doomblade, we're getting, like actual big scary cards and stuff.
Right.
I don't know how this kind of stuff is going to perform in a 5-year, I think it's 5 years that it's going to exist in standard. So
we've got to figure it out because that's a big question mark of change.
It's a very
collecting side of things.
Definitely I'm seeing cards that are most likely going to be impactful in standard, and so they're going to be there for a long time alongside Bloomburrow and Duskmourn and all these sets that are currently standard. And then once those sets rotate out, these cards will still be around. So we should just kind of get used to looking at these. There's some questions for me. Are any of these so pushed that they could be hit with a ban? When you're dealing with a standard format that's going that long, you have to look at these cards with a little bit more scrutiny, because you're like, okay, does anything get in too crazy with the dragon, or is that Sphinx going to be an issue? That kind of thing. So time will tell.
Yeah, this is a set that I'm strangely excited about. I had no interest really when they announced this. Thought it was just going to be a thing that existed. After looking at all of the new cards, that's the only pool that we really selected from for this video, was the new to Magic cards from Foundations, not the reprints. There are some cards that I really, really want. And that was our picks. Y'all let us know what your picks are for the singles that you want for Foundations for really any reason, let us know down in the comments. We'd love to talk to you about it.
By now, you've noticed there's a bunch of names scrolling by. Those are all of our patrons at the $10 level or higher. We really appreciate all of you so much and your continued support of the channel so that we can keep making these videos full time for you. Your sacrifice and your patronage does not go unnoticed.
Sacrifice?
Is there a sacrifice? There's that card that sacrifices 13 creatures. Maybe that's what's on my mind.
Blasphemous edict.
Yeah, but that won't be going on in the Patreon.
No.
Don't worry.
You are our foundation. Here's a better metaphor. You are our foundation.
Wow.
It was right there all along, buddy.
That was I had that written down and you said we couldn't use it because it was too basic.
Too on the nose. Sometimes you got to go for it, though.
And now you waited for us to do this video. Bamboozled. And you know I'm going to have to cut out all of this because I don't want to be perceived as salty on the internet.
Right.
And now it's up to you to hope that I forget to cut this out. And I probably will.
I've already forgotten what we just did.